Hi guys, and welcome to day 6 of Creative Christmas. Today we're going to tie together everything that we've learned over the last few days, so shutter, ISO and aperture, to learn how to create the perfect exposure. Basically, what exposure means is it determines how light or dark an image is. It's usually talked about in what's called stops. You may have heard people referring to them as stops. Without going into all the maths, the simplest way to understand is that a stop is usually doubled or halved. So if somebody says, for example, an image is underexposed by a stop, it means that you need to double the amount of light that's hitting your center to make it the right exposure. To help you, there's usually a little green bar on the inside of your camera, marked with say -3 to +3 or some little green lines. This is called a light meter, and it helps you get your exposure where it should be. Hopefully you're aiming for the middle. Each of the 3 controlling factors which we've discussed can be adjusted to help you get enough light on your sensor, and these all have their own different ways of measuring the amount of light which hits the sensor, just to confuse you. So for your shutter speed, it's measured in fraction of a second, so it'll be 1/250th, which means 1/250th of a second. If you halve that, it's 1/125th, and that's double the amount of light that's let in. Conversely, if you double it to 1/500th of a second, your camera will let half the amount of light in, i.e. you've darkened the image by 1 stop. Your ISO is basically the camera's sensitivity to light. So if you start at say 200 ISO and you halve it to 100 ISO, you'll darken the image by a stop. And now say we want to increase the exposure by 3 stops, we have to increase the ISO from 200 to 1600 by doubling 200 3 times. So 200 to 400 to 800 to 1600. Hopefully that makes sense. Finally, your aperture works in exactly the same way. So if you start at f5.6 and you need an extra stop of light, you go to f4. If you need to decrease the light by 2 stops, you'd go to f11. So f5.6, f8, f11. So as a working example, say your settings are 1/125th, ISO 100 and f8, and you need to increase your exposure by 2 stops. There's loads of ways you can do this. The easiest ways are probably increase your ISO to 400, reduce your f-stop to f4, reduce your shutter speed to a 30th. Any combination of the above. So you could up your ISO to 200 and reduce your f-stop to f5.6, and it has exactly the same effect. But it is important to keep in mind the negatives of changing each settings, which have been outlined in the previous videos, such as depth of field when making your decision. But do just go out and play. And the best way to do it, honestly, is to just go out and learn and find out how it affects your camera's exposure. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering what I consider to be the most essential piece of kit, obviously outside of your lens and your camera, and that's getting a solid tripod. If you do want these short videos delivered straight to your inbox, please either subscribe via YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe below, or on the blog, and we'll sort the rest for you. Thanks, guys.